With more force than was required, I placed the crystal wine glasses on the dining room table. Each clink is a small protest against the ideal family meal I was supposed to provide. I paused as Vanessa's voice floated through the kitchen door in a low, desperate whisper. I promise it will work. She won't even pass the bar test by the time I'm finished, much less work for that firm. I'm Audrey, and up until that point, I genuinely thought that family had some significance in this home. With a pounding heart, I pushed myself closer to the door. I halted as the wooden floor groaned under my feet. No, listen, Vanessa went on, completely unaware of me. I know people at the law school. Her entire career is ruined by the slightest whiff of academic dishonesty. At last, Ryan's parents will recognize her for who she truly is. The wine glass in my hand trembled. I set it down before I could drop it, before I could storm into that kitchen and confront my sister-in-law. 5 years of forced smiles and passive-aggressive comments had led to this. Vanessa plotting to destroy everything I'd worked for. The kitchen door swung open. I grabbed a napkin, pretending to fold it as Vanessa emerged, her phone disappearing into her designer purse. Her perfectly painted lips curved into a smile that never reached her eyes. Need any help, darling? The endearment dripped with honey-coated venom. I've got it covered. I matched her smile, tooth for tooth. Though you seemed quite busy in there. Important call. A flicker of something, fear, maybe, crossed her face before she laughed. Oh, just wedding planning stuff. My friend Caroline is getting married, and you know how brides can be. Fascinating. I smoothed the tablecloth, especially since Caroline got married last spring. I remember because you complained about her dress for weeks. Vanessa's smile faltered for just a second. Different Caroline, of course. I turned away, arranging the silverware with precise movements. Ryan should be home soon. Would you mind opening the wine? The good bottle in the cabinet? She hesitated, probably wondering if I'd heard more than I was letting on. But that's the thing about Vanessa. She always underestimated me, always saw me as the scholarship kid who'd somehow trapped her golden boy of a brother-in-law. The doorbell rang, saving us both from the mounting tension. Sam, Ryan's younger brother, stood on the porch, a bottle of whiskey in one hand and that knowing look in his eyes. He'd always been the perceptive one. Ladies, he said, stepping inside. His gaze lingered on my white-knuckled grip on the serving spoon. Everything okay in here? Perfect, Vanessa chirped, already heading for the wine cabinet. Just perfect. Sam raised an eyebrow at me, and I gave him the slightest shake of my head. Not now. Not yet. The front door opened again, and Ryan's voice filled the hallway. Something smells amazing. I watched my husband embrace his sister, saw the way Vanessa's eyes gleamed with triumph over his shoulder. She thought she had it all figured out. The perfect plan to rid her perfect family of the imperfect addition. But she'd forgotten something crucial. Before I fell in love with Ryan, before I joined this family of old money and older secrets, I grew up fighting for everything I had. And I'd learned one thing very well. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served hot or cold. Sometimes it's served with a smile and a perfectly laid table, while you wait for your target to make their next move. Sam caught my eye again and lifted his whiskey bottle in a subtle toast. To family, he said, his voice carrying a weight Vanessa couldn't possibly understand. To family, I echoed, already planning my next move, because this dinner was just the beginning, and I had no intention of going down without a fight. The roast beef grew cold on my plate as I watched Vanessa work the dinner table like a politician at a fundraiser. Linda and Robert hung on her every word about the new children's hospital wing she was helping to fund. Even Mark beamed at his wife with pride, completely blind to the viper he'd married. "Speaking of careers," Vanessa said, dabbing her lips with her napkin, "how's the studying going, Audrey? The bar exam must be absolutely crushing." I felt Ryan's hand squeeze my knee under the table. A warning or support, I couldn't tell anymore. "It's going well," I said, cutting my meat with precise strokes. Though I suppose some people might find it crushing if they hadn't earned their way in. The silence that followed could have cracked glass. Earned their way in. Sam coughed into his whiskey. Vanessa's laugh tinkled like broken crystal. "Oh, darling, you're not still bitter about that old rumor about my father's donations to the law school, are you?" Ancient history. Ryan shifted beside me. "Maybe we should." I interrupted. "I'd love to hear more about your charitable work, Vanessa. It must be so rewarding having all those connections at the law school." Her smile flickered across the table. Sam's eyes narrowed. "More wine?" Linda offered, already reaching for the bottle. "Robert dear, tell everyone about your new golf membership." But Vanessa wasn't finished. "It is rewarding, almost as rewarding as watching someone work so hard to prove they belong. Though sometimes effort alone isn't quite enough, is it?" "Vanessa," Mark warned, finally picking up on the tension. I set down my fork. "You would know all about effort, wouldn't you? All those hours spent on the phone-making plans, pulling strings." "Audrey," Ryan's voice was sharp. "What's gotten into you?" The betrayal in his tone cut deeper than Vanessa's barbs. I pushed back from the table. "Excuse me, I need some air." The back porch was my refuge, the night air cooling the fury in my cheeks. Behind me, the dinner conversation resumed, muffled by glass and walls. I counted my breaths, trying to regain control. The door opened. "Real subtle in there, counselor." Sam's voice was quiet as he joined me. "Did you see her face? She knows I heard her." "Yeah, and now everyone else knows something's wrong too." He leaned against the railing. "Including Ryan. He never sees it. The little digs, the subtle threats. He thinks I'm paranoid." Sam was quiet for a moment. "What if I told you this goes deeper than Vanessa's usual games?" I turned to face him. "What do you mean?" "I've been watching her for months. The suspicious phone calls, the late-night meetings. She's up to something bigger than sabotaging your career." The back door opened again. Ryan stepped out, his expression unreadable. Sam straightened, nodding to us both before slipping back inside. "Want to tell me what that was about?" Ryan asked. "Your sister is trying to destroy my career, and you're asking me what's wrong." I ran a hand through my hair. He ran a hand through his. "Come on, Audrey. Vanessa can be difficult, but she wouldn't." "I heard her, Ryan. Today, on the phone. She's planning to spread rumors about academic dishonesty to keep me from passing the bar." "Maybe you misunderstood." "There it is." I laughed bitterly. "Always defending her. Always choosing your family over." "Over you?" His voice rose. "You're my family too, Audrey. But lately, it feels like you're looking for reasons to hate them." Inside, I could see Vanessa watching us through the window, her expression almost hungry. This was exactly what she wanted, to drive a wedge between us. "You know what?" I said, keeping my voice steady. "You're right. I must have misunderstood. Let's go back inside." Ryan looked relieved, but confused by my sudden surrender. He didn't understand that sometimes retreat was just another form of advance. As we returned to the dining room, Sam caught my eye and gave me the slightest nod. Whatever he knew about Vanessa, whatever was really going on, I had a feeling I was about to find out. And this time, I'd be ready. "Everything okay?" Vanessa asked sweetly as we sat down. "Perfect," I replied, matching her tone. "Now tell us more about those hospital donations. I'd love to hear all about where the money goes." Sam's text arrived at 3 o'clock in the morning. "Mitchell Financial Group. Tomorrow. Back entrance. You need to see this." I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Ryan. The laptop's glow illuminated our home office as I pulled up the company's financial records. Perks of being married to your partner's son. Nothing seemed unusual at first glance. But then I noticed it. A pattern of transfers to offshore accounts, all authorized by Vanessa's department. The next morning, I told Ryan I had an early study group. The lie tasted bitter, but lately, everything about our marriage did. Sam was waiting in the parking garage, holding a thick manila envelope. "You're not going to like this," he said, leading me to a service elevator. "Since when do you have access to the building security system?" I asked as he swiped a key card. "Since I started tracking our dear sister-in-law's late-night visits." The elevator hummed to life. "Did you know she's been coming here almost every night for the past 3 months?" The executive floor was empty, dawn barely breaking through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Sam led me to Vanessa's office, using another key card to enter. "How much do you know about gambling addiction?" he asked, booting up her computer. "What does that have to do?" I stopped as spreadsheets filled the screen. Numbers that didn't add up. Transactions that made no sense. "These are Robert's personal accounts and the family trust and the hospital foundation." Sam's voice was grim. "She's been moving money around for months, covering her tracks with fake charitable donations." My hands shook as I scrolled through the documents. She's stealing from her own family. Worse, she's using Robert's credentials to do it. If this gets out, he'll take the fall. The pieces clicked into place. Her desperate need to discredit me, the late-night meetings, the sudden interest in hospital donations. She knew I'd figure it out once I started working here. "Exactly." Sam handed me the envelope. "These are copies of everything. Bank statements, security footage, phone records. She's in deep with some dangerous people." A noise in the hallway made us freeze. Footsteps approached, then stopped. "Hide," Sam whispered, shoving me behind a filing cabinet just as the door opened. "You're here early." Vanessa's voice was sharp with suspicion. "Could say the same about you, sis." Sam's tone was casual, but I could hear the tension. "Just picking up some files for Dad in my office." Door was open, got turned around. A pause. "You've been poking around, haven't you? Following me. Paranoid much? Though I guess with what you've been up to, paranoia makes sense." "You don't understand." Her voice cracked slightly. "I had no choice. Once you start, you can't just stop." Sam's voice hardened. "Like you couldn't stop trying to destroy Audrey's career or stealing from our family." "I'm protecting our family." The sound of something slamming. "You have no idea what Dad's mistakes cost us. What I've had to do to keep this family afloat." My heart pounded as I pieced together her words. Robert's mistakes. What had he done that drove Vanessa to this? "By gambling with dirty money," I whispered. "By framing our father." Sam laughed bitterly. "Some protection." "Get out." Vanessa's voice was ice. "And Sam, if you breathe a word of this to anyone, especially that scholarship trash Ryan married, I'll make sure everyone knows about your little cocaine habit in college. Wonder what that would do to your new business venture. The door slammed. I waited until the footsteps faded before emerging. Sam's face was pale. Audrey. Save it. I clutched the envelope tighter. We need to figure out our next move. She'll destroy us both if we expose her. Maybe. I stared at the computer screen still displaying the evidence of Vanessa's betrayal. Or maybe it's time someone called her bluff. As we left the office, my phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Where are you really? We need to talk. I showed Sam the message. He grimaced. What are you going to tell him? The truth, I said, though my voice wavered. At least part of it. But first, we need to understand exactly what Robert did that started all this. Because somewhere in this web of lies and manipulation, there's a truth that could either save this family or tear it apart completely. And I'm going to find it, no matter the cost. The folder of evidence sat between Ryan and me like a bomb waiting to detonate. We faced each other across our kitchen island, the morning sun casting harsh shadows across his features. So you've been investigating my sister. His voice was flat. With Sam's help. I've been protecting our future. I pushed the folder toward him. Look at it, Ryan. Really look. He didn't touch it. You lied to me for weeks while your sister was stealing millions from your family. The words burst out before I could stop them. She's gambling with dirty money, using your father's credentials. Stop. He held up a hand. Just stop. My phone buzzed. Another message from Sam about Robert's old financial records. I ignored it. You don't believe me? The realization felt like ice in my veins. I believe you think you're right. Ryan's lawyer voice, the one he used with difficult clients. But Vanessa's been handling the family finances for years. If something was wrong, Dad would know. Unless she's been hiding it. I stopped, as Ryan's phone lit up with a text. His expression changed as he read it. Vanessa's at the hospital, he said. Apparent overdose. The world tilted. What? Mark found her? Ryan was already grabbing his keys. She left a note about embezzlement, about gambling debts, about you investigating her. My throat closed. Ryan, don't. His eyes met mine, filled with something worse than anger, disappointment. You pushed her to this. He left me standing in our kitchen. The morning sun now felt more like a spotlight. My phone buzzed again. Sam. His voice was tense when I answered. Ryan just left for the hospital. Sam, I'd never meant. It's a play. He cut me off. Think about it. The timing, the note. She knows we have evidence. She tried to kill herself. No, she's making sure nobody looks too closely at what she's really doing. Check your email now. I opened my laptop with shaking hands. Sam had forwarded an email chain. Messages between Vanessa and someone named Marcus Chin, dated just hours ago. Transfer the remaining funds tonight. The last message read, once it's done, make it look like Robert's mistake. The overdose gives us the perfect cover. She's running. Sam said, the hospital drama keeps everyone distracted while she finishes whatever she started. My mind raced. The Family Foundation auction is tonight. All the accounts will be accessible for donations. Exactly, Sam confirmed. And Dad's supposed to make some big announcement. A pause. Audrey, if she succeeds in pinning this on him, he'll lose everything. I stared at the evidence folder. And so will Ryan. We need to stop her. How? Ryan thinks I drove his sister to attempt suicide. If I show up at that auction, Then don't show up as yourself. Sam's voice took on a familiar edge, the one he got when hatching a plan. Remember how Vanessa always brags about never checking the guest list, about trusting her assistant to handle it? Understanding dawned. You know her assistant better. I dated her. She owes me a favor. A brief silence. It's risky. If we're wrong about this. We're not. I looked at my reflection in the window, already calculating what I'd need. Get me on that list, Sam. And find out what Robert's announcement is supposed to be. What are you going to do? I thought of Ryan's face as he left, of Vanessa's smug certainty that she'd always win. I'm going to give her exactly what she wants. A public meltdown, just not the one she's expecting. After hanging up, I stood in our kitchen for a long moment, touching the wedding photo on our wall. Ryan and me smiling, his family gathered around us. Vanessa at the edge of the frame, her expression unreadable. My phone buzzed one final time, a message from Mark. She's asking for you. Says she needs to confess something. Please come. I left it unanswered. In a few hours, Vanessa would learn what I'd learned growing up. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about giving them enough rope to hang themselves. Tonight at the auction, she'd have all the rope she needed. And this time, I'd make sure everyone saw what she did with it. The hospital corridor stretched before me like a gauntlet. Through the window of room 412, I could see Vanessa propped up in bed, pale, but perfectly composed. No signs of a woman who'd supposedly overdosed hours ago. You shouldn't be here. Mark blocked my path, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by something harder. Ryan specifically said she asked for me. I held up my phone, showing his text. Or did you forget sending this? Confusion crossed his face. I never. He checked his own phone, frowning. Let her in. Vanessa's voice drifted out. Weak but commanding. We need to talk. Alone. Inside, the hospital room smelled of lies. Dozens of arrangements already crowding every surface. Of course, she'd managed to turn even this into a performance. Quite a show you're putting on. I stayed by the door. The timing's impressive. Always so suspicious. She had adjusted her IV line with practiced care. Can't a woman have a moment of weakness? Sure. Right before the foundation auction. Right when Sam and I discovered your offshore accounts. Her smile didn't waver. You sound paranoid, Audrey. The stress of studying must be getting to you. That's what I'll tell everyone. I stepped closer. You know how worried we've all been about your mental state. Like you told Marcus Chin about Robert's mistakes. The monitor beside her bed beeped faster. You've been reading my emails. You've been stealing from your family. I pointed at her, my voice steady. I've been saving this family. She leaned forward, dropping the fragile act. Do you have any idea what Robert's gambling almost cost us 15 years ago? Someone had to step in, had to fix things by becoming exactly what you claim to hate. By doing what was necessary. She reached for her call button. Now I think it's time for you to leave before I have to tell the nurses about how you came here to threaten me in my weakened state. One question first. I pulled out my phone, playing the recording. Her confession about Robert, about fixing things. How will the board react when they hear this at tonight's auction? The color drained from her face. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. I moved toward the door. Oh, and Vanessa, check your email. Those transfers you scheduled for tonight. They've been flagged for review. Funny how an anonymous tip can complicate things. You stupid girl. Her voice shook with rage. You have no idea what you're doing. If this gets out, you'll destroy me, frame Robert, turn Ryan against me I laughed. You already tried all that. Now, it's my turn. The monitor's beeping reached a fever pitch as I left. In the hallway, Mark caught my arm. What did you say to her? Ask your wife about Marcus Chin and the missing foundation money. I pulled free. Better yet, ask her why she's really in this hospital bed. My phone buzzed. Sam. It's worse than we thought, he said when I answered. Dad's announcement tonight. He's stepping down, naming Vanessa as his successor. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. She planned this whole thing, the overdose, the sympathy, the timing. There's more. Sam's voice hardened. I found Robert's old gambling records. The ones Vanessa claims she covered up. They're forgeries. All of them. She created a problem so she could solve it. Made herself indispensable. And now she gets everything. Unless we stop her tonight. I checked my watch. 6 hours until the auction. Did you get me on the guest list? Better. Got you into the planning committee. You'll have access to everything, including the presentation materials for Dad's announcement. I thought of Ryan, probably still angry, still believing Vanessa's lies. Of Robert about to hand over his legacy to the woman destroying it. Of the recording on my phone and all the evidence we gathered. Send me everything you have, I said. And Sam, make sure Mark sees those forged records before tonight. It's time. Vanessa's husband would finally learn who he really married. As I hung up, another text came through from Ryan. We need to talk before the auction. I didn't reply. Some conversations could only happen after the truth was out. And tonight, everyone would finally see the truth about Vanessa Parker. Even if it cost me everything to show them. The Mitchell Foundation auction buzzed with nervous energy. From my position near the presentation screen, I watched Vanessa make her triumphant entrance, looking remarkably recovered in her designer dress, the perfect picture of resilience. Robert stood at the podium, shuffling his notes. Linda beamed from the front row, and Ryan, my heart clenched, sat beside his sister, concern etched on his face as he helped her to her seat. Everything's ready. Sam appeared at my elbow, tablet in hand. The real financial records are queued up. As soon as Dad starts the announcement. He's here. I cut him off as Marcus Chin slipped into the ballroom, making straight for Vanessa. Her face remained perfectly composed, but her fingers whitened around her champagne glass. The lights dimmed. Robert cleared his throat. Tonight marks a new chapter for the Mitchell Foundation. My phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Check your email now, or your husband learns about Atlantic City. The runes spun. I opened my email with trembling fingers. There it was. Security footage from 3 years ago, me entering a casino. The same casino where Robert had nearly lost everything, where I'd gone to understand what drove him, to find evidence of Vanessa's lies. And so, Robert continued, it gives me great pleasure to announce my successor. Another text. Walk away now, or everyone sees proof that you're just like Robert. A gambling addict destroying this family. Sam, I whispered, showing him the footage. She knew. She knew I was investigating Robert back then. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new CEO of the Mitchell Foundation. That's a bluff, Sam said. We have proof of her crimes, and I'll look like a hypocrite exposing them. My voice cracked. Ryan will never believe me now. Vanessa Parker Mitchell. Applause erupted. Vanessa rose gracefully, tears glistening. The presentation screen lit up with her carefully crafted slides, her vision for the foundation's future. I had seconds to decide. The real financial records waited on Sam's tablet. One click would expose everything, but that footage. Vanessa reached the podium, her eyes finding mine. Before I begin, I'd like to share something personal. Her voice wavered. Perfectly about addiction, about family, about redemption. My finger hovered over Sam's tablet. Ryan was watching his sister with such pride, such trust. We all make mistakes, Vanessa continued. Some of us learn from them, others. Her gaze settled on me. Others continue down destructive paths, hiding their sins behind accusations against others. Mark stood abruptly, documents clutched in his hand, the forged gambling records. But before he could speak, Linda gasped. Robert had collapsed, clutching his chest. Chaos erupted as paramedics rushed in. I saw Vanessa slip something into her purse, a small vial. You didn't, I breathed. Her smile was razor sharp. Choose, Audrey. Expose me now while Robert fights for his life, while your marriage hangs by a thread, or walk away. Live with knowing you could have stopped me but didn't. Ryan rushed past, following the paramedics. He didn't even look at me. Time's up, Vanessa whispered. What's it going to be? Sam gripped my arm. Audrey, we have to. No. The word tasted like defeat. We can't. Not now. I watched Vanessa follow her family, playing the devoted daughter-in-law. In moments, she turned my evidence to ash, my marriage to suspicion, and my revenge to poison. Delete the records, I told Sam. All of them. She'll destroy everything. She already has. I pulled off my wedding ring, the weight of failure crushing my chest. I became exactly what she wanted, the unstable outsider obsessed with destroying their perfect family. As the ballroom emptied, I stood alone by the presentation screen. My reflection stared back, distorted by scrolling images of Vanessa's triumph. Somewhere, an ambulance wailed. My phone buzzed one final time. Ryan, how could you choose tonight, of all nights, to try to hurt our family? I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Vanessa had won, not just the foundation, but everything, and I had helped her do it, one vengeful step at a time. The lights went out, leaving me in darkness. Somewhere in the distance, I heard Vanessa's laugh, bright and victorious, echoing through the empty halls of her new empire. The hospital corridor felt different at midnight. Robert's room number glowed like a beacon, 505. Through the window, I could see him sleeping, monitors beeping steadily. And there was Vanessa, alone, reviewing documents in the dim light. Perfect. I pushed open the door. Destroying evidence. She didn't even look up. Come to finish what you started. Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. I held up the vial I'd retrieved from her purse during the chaos. Beta blockers. Enough to trigger cardiac symptoms without killing him. Clever. Now she looked up, composure cracking slightly. Where did you? Mark found it. Amazing what a husband will do when he discovers his wife's been lying for years. I moved closer. He's talking to the board right now about everything. You're bluffing. Check your phone. Her face went ashen as messages flooded in. Emergency board meeting. Frozen accounts. Marcus Chin's arrest. It's over, Vanessa. Nothing's over. She stood trembling. You have no idea what you've done. What I've sacrificed to keep this family safe. By forging those gambling records. Robert's voice was weak but clear, making us both jump. Vanessa, I said, you kept me safe by poisoning me? By stealing from us? By keeping us relevant? She whirled on me. You think you know what it takes to belong in this world? You, with your scholarship and your self-righteous morality. I know enough not to destroy the people I claim to love. The door opened. Ryan stood there, Sam and Mark behind him. My heart stopped. Show them, Robert said quietly. Show them everything, Audrey. My hands shook as I projected the files onto the wall. Wire transfers, forged documents, the real gambling records showing not Robert's addiction, but Vanessa's years of manipulation laid bare. It wasn't Daddy who almost lost everything, Sam said. It was you. And you've been covering it up ever since, haven't you, sis? Vanessa laughed, a broken sound. Of course you believe her. The perfect Audrey, who went to that same casino, who's just as capable of investigating you. I finished. Yes, I went there to understand what really happened 15 years ago, to prove you were lying. Ryan, she pleaded, turning to her brother. You can't believe. Stop. Ryan's voice was ice. The board's waiting downstairs. So are the police. If I go down, she hissed, I'm taking everyone with me. Every dirty secret. Every covered mistake. No, Robert interrupted. You're not. He held up a recorder. Because while you were confessing everything to Audrey, you were also confessing to me. The fight drained from her. She sank into the chair, years of careful manipulation crumbling around her. I just wanted to matter, she whispered, to be essential. You were always essential, Robert said. You were my daughter. That should have been enough. Mark stepped forward, his face etched with grief. It's time, Van. As they let her out, Ryan caught my arm. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Would you have believed me? His silence was answer enough. I'll resign tomorrow, I said. The foundation needs you. Robert's voice was firm. The foundation needs someone who will protect it, even at personal cost. If you want the position. I looked at Ryan, saw the apology in his eyes, the request for a second chance. First, I said, I need to understand why she did it all. Then let's ask her. Ryan took my hand, together this time. As we left Robert's room, I caught my reflection in the window. The woman staring back wasn't seeking revenge anymore. She was seeking truth, understanding. Maybe that's what justice really looked like. Not the satisfaction of destroying your enemy, but the courage to face the complicated truth about family, loyalty, and redemption, even if that truth hurt like hell. The Mitchell Foundation boardroom felt different now. Sunlight streamed through windows that had been shuttered during Vanessa's tenure, illuminating the fresh flowers on the conference table, my flowers. A small change that meant everything. The rehabilitation program reports are encouraging, Mark said, sliding a folder across the table. She's trying. I nodded, studying Vanessa's neat handwriting on her latest letter to the board, confessions, apologies, and something else. Suggestions for protecting the foundation from future manipulation. Even in recovery, she couldn't help trying to fix things. Have you read it? Robert asked from the doorway, looking stronger than he had in months. Every word. I closed the folder. She wants to make restitution. Help implement new security measures. From experience, he said. Riley. Sam appeared behind his father, tablet in hand. The press release is ready. Mitchell Foundation announces new transparency initiative. Are you sure you want to do this? Air everything, I said. The gambling addiction, the recovery program, the new oversight committees. Show them we're not hiding anymore. It'll hurt the stock price, Ryan warned, but his hand found mine under the table. Support, not criticism. Then we'll rebuild the right way. This time. Linda brought coffee. Her presence in the boardroom was no longer unusual, another change. No more artificial divisions between family and business. I found this in Vanessa's old office, she said, holding out a photograph. The whole family at my wedding. Vanessa's smile tight, even then. She was so young when her mother died. Maybe if we'd seen. We all missed things, Robert interrupted gently. The question is, what do we do now? I studied the photograph, remembering my own hunger for belonging, how it had nearly turned to poison. We help her heal, and ourselves. Speaking of healing, Sam said, Mark's request. All eyes turned to Mark, who straightened. She'd like to see you, Audrey. Says there's something you need to hear. Something about Atlantic City. The old fear flickered, but didn't take hold. Tell her I'll come, but not because I need answers anymore. Ryan squeezed my hand. He understood now how revenge and redemption sometimes wore the same face. There's one more thing. Robert pulled out an envelope, weathered with age. I wrote this 15 years ago, when I thought I'd lost everything. When Vanessa first stepped in to save us. The letter inside was brief. To whoever finds this, I knew about the gambling, the cover-ups, all of it. I let it happen because I couldn't bear to see her pain. My silence makes me as guilty as her actions, maybe more so. You knew. Linda's voice shook. I thought I was protecting her. Robert's eyes met mine. Like you thought you were protecting this family by investigating her. Like she thought she was protecting us all with her schemes. We're more alike than we knew. Sam took the letter, scanning it. Why show us now? Because secrets don't protect anyone, I said, understanding finally. They just give us the illusion of control. The morning sun shifted, throwing our shadows across the boardroom wall. All of us connected, all of us flawed. Outside, construction crews were renovating the building's facade, stripping away old paint to reveal the original stone beneath. The press conference starts in an hour, Sam reminded us. They'll want to know how we move forward. Together, Ryan said simply. I gathered my notes, pausing at the door. The boardroom had been Vanessa's domain, her fortress of secrets and schemes. Now it was just a room filled with morning light and the quiet strength of difficult truths. Ready? Ryan asked. I considered Vanessa's efforts to get better, Robert's eventual admission of his own involvement, and my own path from retaliation to comprehension. Almost, I remarked, setting the vintage photo on the wall where Vanessa's business honors had previously been displayed. A reminder that every act of redemption or treachery was really just a family attempting to love one another through the dark. That was sufficient at times. It had to be sometimes.